We
So
are live.
I don't know if anybody's catching the little dance waiting for it to load up because my PC is being as slow as anything.
Well,
so
I got enough.
Hi, good evening. Welcome to the IBD Ostomy Support Show. I'm Louise, aka Crohn's 13, and tonight we are going to be covering some sensitive subjects. So just to forewarn you, it might not be for easy viewing. So apologies for that in advance. So just a quick one. Rachel, so Jill, if you're watching, not to panic. Rachel's just having a break this evening. She's had a couple of meetings this week. She's absolutely knackered, so she's having the night off. Shout out to Steffi. I'm sorry the douchebag at work changed your rota. We miss you muchly, and we'll see you either next week or the week after. A shout out to Nat because Steve's not very well at the moment, and Steve's back in hospital, so Nat's with him this evening, so Nat's not joining us either. So I have Alannah and Steve backing us up this evening and joining us, and the topics that we are going to be discussing this evening are in the lines of fertility and sometimes the sort of heartbreaking decisions that we have to make over the fertility or our health. So just to warn you, it's not necessarily graphic information, but obviously stuff that might be a bit touchy and what people may or may not agree with. So please be kind on the chat. We'll endeavour to ask as many questions as possible whilst we're live. So what have I been up to this week? Well, as you can see, my barnet is actually down and it's nice and straight because I spent like £10 on a hairbrush and 40 minutes to actually get it to look like this morning. Yay. Nearly waxed my face off Tuesday night. Nearly waxed something else off, but I won't go into that. But man, it is painful waxing your legs, I can tell you. So went to East Grinstead Hospital, which is Queen's, on Tuesday to go and see the dentist about having my wisdom tooth removed. I thought they was going to remove it, but she couldn't remove it that day. It's a 6-month bloody wait for sedation to have your tooth removed. That is ridiculous. However, I'm special, and because they know I've got my pre-op on the 25th of July, when you go in to have surgery, you can't have any loose fillings or caps, and you can't have cavities in your teeth due to the intubation. So I had a phone call today. They're removing my tooth next Tuesday. I've got to brave it under local anaesthetic, so I will do my best to not hurt anybody in the process. But my tooth is going to be ripped out next Tuesday, so I'm going to spend a week after that looking like a chipmunk. What else have I been up to? I've been busy with work, just been busy with life in general. I've had a few vlogs go up recently, just sort of changing the way that I do my Crohn's fighting page, so it's a bit more interactive. I will at some point do a live, but going live is pretty scary. And what happens if no one watches it?
People will watch. We'll do a share.
A lonely live.
What else? Oh yes, I am going shopping for my ball gown tomorrow evening for the Purple Wings event on the 11th of August. So for any of you who haven't bought your tickets already, head over to the Purple Wings page, either on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram, and you can get your tickets. It is both a day event and an evening event. The day event is 1 till 4, or is it 1 till 5, Steve?
I'm not sure, you know. I can't remember the last time I looked at the ticket, you know. It's probably 1 till 5.
Yeah, it's either 1 till 4, 1 till 5, and then the evening event with the ball starts at 7:30 in the evening. Most of us will be staying over there at the Copthorne, so we'll be getting up to adult shenanigans with alcohol, possibly.
Oh, I hope so.
And there'll be quite a few fantastic people there doing a presentation. I can't think of what else. Oh yeah, I can finally fit into a 30-inch jeans in super dry, so that is like goals of all goals for me.
Well done.
And other than that, having a chilled weekend. I'm having my first proper Indian on Sunday, so may the Lord have mercy on whatever comes out of my bag. And I will pass you over to Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve. As you can see, my hair is looking on fleek. What have I been doing this week? Well, just the usual work home. Saturday I took my lad to his acting class at the Rep in Birmingham, and I happened to stumble upon the CCUK Walk It event, where I saw quite a few people that I already knew already, and it was just exactly where I was parking, so that turned out as quite a nice day. It was just scorching. It was. My lad just spent time on the bouncy castle until it deflated. And What else? Looking forward to the Purple Wings do. That'll be nearly a year that me and Rachel have been together.
Oh.
A year. Honestly, look how fast that's gone. You know, it's like the 6th of August, I think.
I remember when you messaged me to let me know it's not going to cause any issues on the show, but we're in a relationship.
Oh, that's so cute.
They thought I was going to shout at them. I was like, no, it's so cute.
The head mistress.
That's great.
I can't think what else I've done. You know, I always get to this part and I think, come on, Steve, you've done loads this week. And I get here and my mind goes blank. And I'm trying desperately hard. Oh, my hernia has been giving me it's been giving me grief. It's been every week I'm having issues with it, pain. It sticks out like a sore thumb. It really, you know, it used to be just a visual thing that bothered me. You know, the fact that my T-shirts are lumpy on the one side. I don't mind having a fat belly, you know, but as long as it's even on both sides. But that's causing me issues. So, you know, it's probably about, I don't know, 60 days till my op. So fingers crossed that all goes well. And it goes ahead on the day given as well. What else? Let me think. Well, I've got to give a shout out to Val from Rachel. I want to give a shout out to Martin, who's had his transplant. Fingers crossed everything goes well, buddy. And I think that's pretty much it from me at the moment. Let's introduce to Alannah. Is it Alannah or Alannah?
Hello. Alannah.
Oh, there you go.
Hi, I'm Alannah, and I'm also known as Glittery Guts on Instagram. And I usually post like loads of crap on there. But anyway, what have I been up to? I have been redecorating the house actually. Since I had my operation, I've been finding things to kind of concentrate on and keep my mind, you know, busy. So we are doing up the living room. So I'm completely just stripping everything bare and just starting again. What else have we been up to? Benji got his operation, so I've been caring for him with his cone bashing and everywhere.
Is it a dog or a cat?
He's a dog. Benji. Oh, he's too far away. You can't see him. But yeah, so we've been doing that. And basically just resting after my operation on Friday. So, you know, it's been quite relaxed. So yeah, that's what I've been up to this week.
Okay.
Okie dokies. So what are we going to be covering? So we're covering fertility, but we're covering the aspect this week of the more difficult side of things. So those being predominantly those of us with IBD and the drugs and the medications and the surgery and the scar tissue. And there's such a long list of things. So with women, surgery can affect the reproductive system, dependent on Crohn's or UC. That can infiltrate the uterus. It can cause scar tissue on your fallopian tubes. But then there's not only that to consider, there's also the medication side of things to consider. So we've got things like the immunosuppressants, so that's methotrexate, mercaptopurine. There's then the infliximab, the Humira, is it adalimumab? But that is Humira.
That is Humira, yeah, that's the proper name.
And then you've got like the Stellara, the Entavio, which is also known as vedolizumab, azathioprine. All of those drugs for both men and women with the immunosuppressant side affect the fertility to a certain degree. And it is normally advised that with regards to certain medications, that if you are on them, then you shouldn't try and conceive whilst taking those drugs, because things like the azathioprine and that can affect the way the man's sperm behaves. And the same with the ladies on the side of things, because some of the drugs are classed as chemotherapy drugs. What that does to the immune system or what that does to the body, it's normally advised that you shouldn't fall pregnant whilst on those. However, in cases of Humira, Entavio, and infliximab, if you're not on the methotrexate or the azathioprine or the mercaptopurine, you can fall pregnant on those because there's a possibility that they have put you into remission whilst you were on those drugs. So you're healthy, therefore you can conceive. So what happens when that goes? So for me, so I had a really easy pregnancy with Maisie. I fell pregnant whilst I was on infliximab, but because I was in my first trimester, I had to stop the infliximab whilst I was pregnant. So I stopped that. Had a pretty relatively easy pregnancy till I was 26 weeks. And then I hit a full-on Crohn's flare and I was in hospital for 3 weeks. When I come out of hospital, I was on a bucket load of Pred, and I believe the correct amount on that I was on at the time was between 80 and 90 milligrams per day. And
how much are in per tablet now?
80 to 90 milligrams per day I was on, and I had to start tapering the dose down at 32 weeks. And then by the time I hit 36 weeks, I was on 5 milligrams a day. I was literally dropping 10 mgs a week.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? The amount of...
Yeah, but my Crohn's flare was so extreme when I was pregnant. I think I only gained, in the six months of being pregnant, I think I'd only gained 3 or 4 pounds. So they had difficulty scanning me when I was pregnant with Maisie. I had internals until I was 16 weeks pregnant, and then my 16-week scan, 20-week scan, 24-week, 28, because they scanned me every 4 weeks. I would spend anything between an hour to an hour and a half in the sonographer's room each time I had the scan, because of the amount of scar tissue on my right side, because of where I had my appendix removed, and because of the Crohn's. The scans weren't coming back very clear, so they'd have to shift me and wait for the baby to move and then try a different angle to try and get the measurements and everything else. So it was pretty full. Well, what happened at 36 weeks was my obstetric team went on maternity leave and they left me with the registrars. I was advised that I was to be induced at 36 weeks. That advice fell on deaf ears. I went over term with Maisie, which by then my Crohn's flare was under control, and I was half side of house. I think on the day that I give birth to Maisie, when I had the C-section, I was 16 stone. I'd gone from 11 stone to 16 stone from the 26 week.
That wasn't all Maisie, was it?
No, it wasn't all Maisie. Most of that was Pred, and my predilection from about 28 weeks of driving through McDonald's drive-through for double cheeseburgers and a large strawberry milkshake at 3 in the morning to get rid of the heartburn.
It is the devil's drug, isn't
it? So I went into natural labour with Maisie. I went into spontaneous labour. My waters broke, went up to the hospital. They told me I was a first-time mum. I didn't know what I was talking about, and it was just a bit of discharge, and they sent me home. So I went back up the next day because the contractions were getting closer, and I was still constantly dribbling. Day 2, I got sent back home. Day 3, I could have gone up there in the morning, but I decided not to. I went and walked the dog, and I was like, I tell you what, if I can get these contractions to 2 minutes apart, like hell, they're going to send me home. So walked the dog, put a king-size bed up the stairs, and help my cousin put it up, put a camp bed in the baby's nursery.
On the trampoline.
Yeah, on the trampoline, went for a drive, and about 9 o'clock that night, my contractions were coming thick and fast. I was timing them on the calculator. I went and had a bath, got out the bath, took a couple of paracetamol, because that's all you're allowed to take when you're pregnant and in labour, until they give you the hardcore stuff when you get up the hospital. I think I got to about a minute and a half apart, and I pulled my ex out of bed and said, look, not being funny, but I think we need to get to hospital round about now, because it's happening. I got up the hospital, and they tried to send me home again.
They're good at that.
Yeah, and Maisie's dad, thankfully at the time, said, I'm not being funny. He said, but she's really tetchy. He said, and she's getting rather abusive to me. He said, so I think you need to check her. So they put me up on the table. They got a senior in. They did a sweep. I think I had something like 2 teaspoons of backwaters left when they did the sweep. They put me on the heart machine. Maisie was in distress. I was in distress. They took me down at 3:30 in the morning. They had the epidural in between 3:30 and 4. Maisie wasn't born until 7 minutes past 8. Now, what I didn't know, and if I'd have known this before I fell pregnant, it wouldn't have happened, I can tell you now. They perforated my bowel when they did my C-section, because they couldn't get the knife through the scar tissue or the scalp or whatever it was. In the end, there was 3 of them that actually just ripped to get Maisie out. Now, at the time, it had to be done because Maisie could have died otherwise, and when Maisie come out, her APGAR wasn't very good and everything else. So I had the epidural topped up, and they put Maisie on my chest 7 minutes past 8, and I said, I'm ever so sorry, but I can feel my feet. Do you think you can knock me out now? So they spent another 4 hours trying to repair whatever damage they'd caused by ripping me open. They didn't know what damage they'd caused, so they kept me nil by mouth. I had Maisie the Wednesday morning. I was on life support the Saturday morning. The damage from the C-section, so not necessarily from my Crohn's, but from the C-section, they'd perforated my bowel. And from what we can establish now, my small bowel was adhered to scar tissue and had been pulled down. So where my tummy and everything had moved whilst I was pregnant and all your insides changed, what they'd actually done is they'd perforated my small bowel and my fistula when they ripped me open.
Right.
So I caught fecal peritonitis, septicemia. I was pretty close to death. Well, actually, I did die several times down on the theatre table, but who's counting? And this resulted with my first ileostomy, and it also resulted me with an open wound, and it's now also left me with no central abdominal muscles. I only have my obliques left and a rather fetching set of meshwork to hold my insides to stop them from falling outside.
Was Maisie a good weight? Was she a good weight?
She was 7 pounds and 14 ounces. But
okay,
I was 2 weeks. Yeah, but I was 2 weeks overdue as well.
Right. Wow.
Okay.
So. Roll on to 2012, I had all the reconstruction surgery and my bowel put back together and post-op ileus and everything else, and I didn't fall pregnant. 2012 or 2013, I think it was, they put me on the Humira. In 2014, I was diagnosed as having a major Crohn's flare, so they put me back on the Humira, and they had me on the Mercaptopurine. I can't remember if it was the
Mercaptopurine, yeah.
Yeah, they had me back on the Mercaptopurine with a low loading dose of azathioprine going through the back. So because of the drugs, when I'm in flare, I don't have my lady time of the month. It just sort of has a knock-on effect and stops things. So I didn't find out I was pregnant in 2014 until I was 14 weeks gone. Now, finding out you're that far gone and you didn't have a bloody clue, I had to get in so quick to see my consultant and my GI. Thankfully, because of the way I am, I only have to ring the secretary and they'll give me an appointment for a week's time. So I went there, and both my GP and my GI advised that it wasn't safe for me to continue in the pregnancy. The drugs that I had been taking could have an adverse effect on the baby. So I had to go, sadly, I had to go and have a termination done. Now, for those of you watching, you can judge. I didn't have much choice at the time, and because of the drugs could have been more damaging to the baby than continue with the pregnancy. But what I didn't know then to what I know now, that actually saved my life.
Each case is going to be different, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether people judge or not. You know, that's no one's business apart from your own and whoever's watching. Do you know what I mean? So I understand why you say that, but you shouldn't, shouldn't feel bad for decisions made.
No, I think it's difficult though, isn't it? When you have to do that.
It's absolutely heartbreaking. And I think what was worse for me at the time is because I've already got a child, so I know what it's like to have a baby and to go through the steps and to go through pregnancy and to go through everything else. It was incredibly heartbreaking for me to go through, because there's nothing more than at the time than I would have liked to have given Maisie a brother or sister. And it does have a knock-on effect, because then you're so conscious about everything after that. And I had the coil fitted when that happened, because I was like, I can't risk falling pregnant again now, not whilst I'm on all these drugs, because it's just not good. So I went through that, and then in 2016, I had to go and see the obs and gynae team because of the amount of damage that both the surgery, the sepsis, and the Crohn's infection have caused to my insides. They wanted me to go and see obs and gynae because there's a lot of damage in there. There's stuff sticking to places where it shouldn't be sticking to, so it explains some of the pain that I get on a regular daily basis. And they sent me to obs and gynae, so I was meant to take them with me, but I didn't. I stupidly went on my own. And I got sat down at a desk and got told, yeah, we can't ascertain which way you was cut during the surgeries. We can't guarantee that the amount of damage that was caused from the infections, that one, you'd be able to carry a child to full term, or two, that I wouldn't hit 16 to 20 weeks without a uterine rupture and bleeding to death. So I can't have any more children.
The system, really, wasn't it?
I bawled my eyes out. I think I went on the missing list for about 6 hours. I think it was. I wasn't answering my phone. I wasn't talking to anybody, and I think I set up the hospital, just wandering around the hospital for 2 hours after being told, whilst trying to claim my train fare back at the same time, and trying to hold it together whilst being a snivelling mess. So the obs and gynae team said to me, if I was to accidentally fall pregnant, they could see what they can do. But when you've been told that you could suffer from a uterine rupture, you're not really going to take that risk, are you?
No.
You're not going to.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? It really is a difficult one to, your whole heart says follow what you've been told, but you're going to have like your heart and your head, two different things, aren't they?
My head tells me not to be stupid, However,
but your heart's like, I really want this.
Yeah, the inner teenage angst and wanting to prove everybody wrong and stick two fingers up was going, well, I could try it. However, I can't, because there's no way Ben's always in hell. My mother would actually kill me. And I can't leave Maisie without a mummy. And even if the pregnancy was to go to full term, there's no guarantee that I'd survive giving birth. So it's
not only that, you don't know that the baby wouldn't be born with health issues itself or deformities or anything.
So I don't know. To be honest, my head tells me don't be so stupid and don't be selfish. I get jealous when people are pregnant. I get the ump with my sister-in-law sort of constantly waving my niece about in my face, because it's sort of taunting me with something that I can't have. Yeah, and I get that. Don't get me wrong, I love my nieces and nephews. I love my friends' children. It's just difficult to be around them when they're baby and toddler age. The older they get, the easier it is, because the closer they get into the age that Maisie's at. But the younger they are, and sort of having memories of when Maisie was that age and what could have been if I'd had that baby and everything else, it's just very difficult for me to sit there and sort of swallow it sometimes, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
It makes total sense. I think for me, like, the worst part at the moment, it's the same as you, is you always think, well, what would have happened if I just ignored the advice I was given? What would have happened if, like, I did decide, you know, to do the complete opposite? And literally, like, the day after I came home, like, people were walking past the front door with, like, babies and prams and stuff, and my cousin had her baby, like, a week beforehand, and it was just, at the moment, I'm, like, kind of reluctant to leave the house unless I absolutely have to, in case I see someone with a child, because it's just really quite, like, in the grieving stage at the moment.
You're still hormonal as well, lovely. It takes anything up to 6 weeks for the hormones to completely leave your system. Your body has to go on like a reset.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. The weirdest part I'm finding at the moment is everything tastes different. So what I liked before,
is that the hormones thing, is it?
Yeah. So what tasted really good before, I eat it now and I don't taste anything at all. I'm just like, what? How does that even, like, how does that happen? It's really annoying.
I can't really add much to this conversation. Obviously, I've got three kids. The oldest is 21, the youngest is 8, and the middle one's 14. And I had a vasectomy probably 6 years ago, something like that. Because, you know, and you have to go through all the counselling to say, you know, what if this happens? Do you really want this to happen? You know, I pretty much had the kids that I wanted. That's, you know, you never know what's in the pipeline. My life has changed dramatically within the last 12 months, within the last 2 years. But what worries me is obviously the forthcoming operation with the total protectomy, which obviously is a Ken bum or a Barbie bum if you're a lady. And, you know, they've given me the warnings of I'm not so much worried about the infertility part, because, you know, I don't have that issue anyway. But they say when they're doing the operation with the lady has childbearing hips, therefore there's a bigger space to work in. They're less likely to cause damage to the erectile muscles, to the nerve endings within that area. Now, you know, they've said, yeah, there's tablets you can have, there's pumps you can use. Obviously, it's a big worry for a male, you know. But, you know, in the end, you just got to suck it up and hope for the best. And I've given them a stern warning, my surgeon. I've said, listen, you best do your very best. Put your best glasses on. You know what I mean? I don't know messing about, no drinking the night before. And hope for the best, really. But, you know, as for the fertility part of things, and you know, my sort of having kids with my ex was years ago, you know, and it's, you know, I see people who can't, and it's just, it must be hard, you know. I feel for it, because ultimately you're taking your legacy forward, aren't you, in this world? you know, and it's really tough. It's hard, and it always seems to be loads of others are having children at the same time, and there's a boom going on. You know, it's just madness. But what can you do apart from just, you know, hope for the best and hope all goes well, you know, in whatever decision happens. But it certainly is a tough one. You know, it's a tough subject to broach. Just talking with friends, let alone, you know, live on YouTube.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Fair play for both of you, you know, for getting involved in this. I'm kind of like, I'm just eye candy tonight, I think.
Well, the thing is, I think I messaged you earlier, didn't I? You was like, I don't know what I can add. I was like, I need you.
It's a tough one, you know.
I mean, I think I can relate as well, you know, because, like, you know, when you say people struggle to have families. Now, before I got pregnant, I was told I couldn't get pregnant, I couldn't have a family from quite a young age. So whenever I got into a relationship, I had to, you know, at the start, I had to be like, right, serious, like, I can't have kids, you know. And then it happened, and I was like, what the hell? Like, you said to me I couldn't have kids, and now all of a sudden I find out I'm pregnant. Like, what am I supposed to do?
The thing is, though, and I have to say this now, Alannah, is there's so many women that have the surgery done that you've had done, that I'm going to have done, that have been told that when they've had that surgery done that they can't fall pregnant.
Yeah.
When in all personal fact that I think it's just something that just rolls off so easily with the to a certain degree. I mean, there's a group on Facebook called the Ostomy and J-Pouch Mums, and the amount of women in there that have had Barbie butts, stoma surgery, J-Pouch surgery, and they've all gone on to have successful pregnancies. I think the best advice that I can give anybody that's watching or anybody that clicks on this at a later date, if you are going to go and have this surgery, especially as a female, if you are going to go and have the Barbie butt surgery or J-Pouch surgery, go and see obs and gynae before you have it done, because the only people that are equipped enough, that are well trained enough to answer those questions are the obs and gynae team, because your surgeon, as great as they may be, your GI, as great as they may be, they can't tell you as to if or not you can or can't fall pregnant. The only people that can tell you that are obs and gynae. There are tests they can do.
Yeah, like the fertility test.
But would you suggest as well, talk to other people that have been through it, and you know, people who have gone through to have a full-term pregnancy?
Yeah,
you know, because
it's like Steffi.
They're not always right, are they? You know,
no, exactly.
They've got to give you the warnings. They've got to give you the risks involved, and you know, and some of the risks are horrific. You know, and ultimately, you as a future mom, just a human, have to make these choices. You know, with all the information that you've got. Sometimes, you know, I don't know, reaching out to other people who've been through it.
That's what's helped me a lot. Like with Louise, like especially, has helped me incredibly a lot. Like it really has. Like when she messaged me last week, I'm getting emotional now. But like last week, I just was getting all teary-eyed because I had so much support, because I had a lot of judgmental people. But I think the main thing as well is when they say to you, you know, if they strongly think, right, okay, right, this person cannot get pregnant, we need to tell them. I think it's so important you do get a fertility test, because unless you get that proof, it's all opinion.
Of course it is, yeah.
You know?
I'm not saying for one moment, you know, that you should take what everyone else says as read. But it certainly comes into the package, the whole package of finding out what's best for you.
The other option, there are so many options though. I mean, for women, if you are having these tests done, and if you are scarred and there's things that aren't working, there's the IVF route where they can make your eggs produce. They can take those eggs out. They can freeze those eggs. There is another procedure that is, in all honesty, it's rather controversial, but they do tend to do that with women that are going through cancer treatment or cancer patients. And that is before they start the treatment. And when they remove everything before they start you off the chemotherapy, they do actually cut out your fallopian tubes and they freeze those. that doesn't have a high success rate, but they do that if it's an emergency and they haven't got time to put you through the IVF process and to
contact your fallopian tubes and freeze them.
Yeah, they
cut out the use.
So how can you have the baby then? Does someone else have it?
Surrogate.
Yeah, right. Okay,
wow.
I didn't think that.
You can surrogate in the UK. You can have somebody surrogate for you. You just can't give them money for the child. You can only give them the money that covers their medical expenses or their traveling.
Yeah,
I think
it's not
all
through
about
the NHS.
Yeah, it's all technical. It's all you can gift cash, but you can't pay for.
No,
it's very political, isn't it?
And it's normally safer to, in all honesty, with surrogates. There are surrogate pages on Facebook. There are people that offer those services. But best advice for that would be is to do your research if you do go down that route.
Yeah,
definitely. You can't guarantee everything's safe, because over in America, they have like a system of approved surrogates and people that have done it before and that sort of thing. Whereas over in the UK, because it's such a controversial subject,
that's it. Because some mothers can see that as their job to surrogate the child. Other mothers will get attached.
Well, this is it. I've heard a lot about that. To give this
child away would be horrific, really. Unless you can't get. I suppose you couldn't get attached, could you, from day one? You'd have to see as you're doing a massive favour for someone.
My mum offered to surrogate for me. My nan offered to surrogate for me. I think my sister-in-law at one point offered, and I was like, no, you're right. Because the thing is because of the amount of damage that I've got, and because I'm not good with hormones, I can't guarantee that going through the egg harvesting process would be healthy for me. I can imagine that might actually send me off into a bit of a hormonal psychosis. So it's something that I haven't had to look at. And do you know what? It's a big ask to ask somebody to do. It's okay if you go through the IVF process and have it done yourself, but to actually watch somebody else carry your baby, I should imagine that is quite...
It'd be quite tough all round, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I said as well, like, I have one friend in particular, and she can't get pregnant. And I said to her that if I ever did manage to get better and my Crohn's was under control, that I would happily, have a child for her. Definitely.
It's a real difficult. This is a whole new can of worms. This is, isn't it?
Because
I can imagine. I can imagine. Let's just say someone is surrogating your child, your future child. Me myself, I'd be kind of like, "Are you eating well?"
Yeah.
I saw you with a bottle of wine the other night. What's all that about?
Yeah, one of the reasons. Yeah, one of the reasons. One of the reasons why my sister-in-law wouldn't is I know she smoked for the entire of her pregnancy with my niece, so there's not a hope in hell, because I never smoked with Maisie. The minute I found out I was pregnant, I stopped.
Yeah.
Literally did the pregnancy test and chucked 40 fags in the bin.
I'll tell you one other thing, actually, as well, that I did notice, and I don't know if it's really on topic or not, but when it comes to pregnancy, I don't know what you guys think, but do you think that alcohol and smoking has an effect on fertility? Because it's quite, you know what I mean?
Yes. I think yes. And from a male point of view, I'm on about it now. I think I know heavy drinkers, mates of mine who smoke and drink and do all sorts of other things, and their levels of, they've tried to conceive a child and nothing's happened. Now, and then once it has happened, then they're like fertile as anything, and they've only got to look at their missus and ping, the baby pops out. Do you know what I mean? So
I think it's debatable.
It is debatable, definitely.
Yeah, I stopped drinking on Christmas, and then literally within a few months, that was me. I was pregnant, and I tried with future past partners, and I literally couldn't.
I let you in for something. Maisie was conceived under alcohol and cigarettes. It happened at my Christmas party.
Wow.
After my Christmas party, not at my Christmas party.
I should imagine that a lot of children are conceived with alcohol. You know what I mean? That's kind of like it's said it's a dead cert, really, isn't it? Parties and stuff like that.
Whoops moments. They do that advert for the tenor lady for the whoops moments. They should do that. They should do that for Pampers.
They do tenor man now.
I was quite lucky anyway when it came to that. So,
Steve, just one to ask, because I know that I think if Rachel was here, she'd be able to answer this. When they do radiotherapy and chemotherapy for men, I do believe that prior to them having it done, because obviously the radiation and the chemotherapy can affect their sperm count and their fertility, that they leave samples to be frozen to use for future procedures. So would they offer that to IBD patients prior to having
I can't honestly answer this because my vasectomy was done 4 or 5 years before I actually was diagnosed with IBD. So when I started methotrexate, obviously a chemo drug in a lower dose, I didn't have the ability to reproduce anymore. So it kind of wasn't an issue. It was given as a warning that it may reduce fertility, but it wasn't an issue because I don't have that option anymore. So I'm really sorry, I can't answer much more than that.
No, it's just curious to ask that one, actually.
But yeah, I was definitely given the warnings, and I'm not sure if I was given the warnings with Humira.
I wasn't.
Which reminds me, I've got my Humira tonight. I always forget, because it's show night, isn't it?
I miss those days, kind of. It's weird.
I'm on bloody, honest to God, if you see my desk at the moment, I've got all my meds out there.
Don't get me started on my bedside cabinet. It's literally like a pharmacy.
I've got all my meds out because I'm on the way off to Bournemouth tomorrow.
Oh,
you're going to go see Lady Rachel.
Yeah, after work. So I've got all my bag packed. And
Steve, stop at the Lush shop. She likes the face packs.
She's like, stop. What shop?
The Lush shop. She likes the fresh
in
face
Birmingham. I bought I bought a few bath bombs for Rachel from there. They were really good.
Oh, there's a really good one, and it's a Christmas one. It's called the Fairy something. Get her that one.
I haven't got time to go to Lush tomorrow, I'm afraid. Sorry.
There's an online store. It's fine.
Or Superdrug. She really likes the simple range.
I'm gonna spoil her rotten.
Good.
But no, I can't wait to see her. To be fair.
How long's it been since you last seen her?
Oh God.
3 months.
Nearly 3 months. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's
obviously we talk every day, and we video chat, but it's not the same, is it?
Steve, no. Graham's just turned around and said you need to make sure you watch Love Island with her.
No, absolutely not. Graham,
don't do it.
I'll tell you what, right? You know what? We don't argue about Love Island, yeah? We argue because I have to wait to talk to her after Love Island. So when the football was on, brilliant. I made a real issue of saying, this is my Love Island. This is.
Just.
No, you know what? I won't watch it. You know why I won't watch it? Because what if I liked it?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like man bags. I always used to slag man bags off, right? And then I got bought one, and it's wicked. I love it. But and I've just gone live and told the world.
Graham's just made
Steve and his man bags.
Graham's just made me laugh because he's just messaged. He said about that Love Island, right? He admitted me. Sorry, Graham, just to drop you in this. He's been watching Love Island.
Oh dear me.
No.
And on that note, there was you know, when I was saying about the sperm thing, there was actually a documentary. Now, I watch documentaries. I don't watch reality TV, but I watch documentaries. And I have to admit, this documentary scarred me for life. And it was something on Channel 4, and it was something like 3 men, 666 babies, and sperm donation. Wow. I won't go into the full details, but if you go onto Channel 4, it will all be in the catch-up somewhere. These men these men are just like driving about in their cars, and they're, doing their business into like clinic. A little no clinic. This one bloke had his van with a makeshift cover in it and the front to cover his windscreen, and he'd jump in the back with his laptop and go about his business into a cup and put it into a syringe, and then go and knock on the door and hand it over to this woman.
No.
And I have to admit, I sat there.
Where is this? Is this in America?
No, this is in the UK.
Oh my god!
No.
Oh my god!
And I was sat I was sat there and I was literally open mouth, and I'm not normally. It takes.
I'm like that right now. Like
charging. So you know, it's a living.
They do it for free. This is the other crux as well. They only asked for like fuel coverage. So if they're driving from say Nottingham down to Bournemouth, they only charge for the fuel, and they just literally drop this stuff in. And I was like, Jesus Christ! Anybody that was literally, if you want to try a baby, you've got it on tap. I was like, these people must have something seriously wrong with them.
Well, what happens when the baby gets older? Oh, who's my dad?
It's a travelling salesman, isn't he?
I just a guy in the back of that van.
all I know is he had a white Ford Escort, and he was asked to be my grandfather at the time. Wow. One of these blokes was like really old. He was like in his 60s.
What? Obviously, if women want that, then you know what? Fair play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it's a means to an end, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's a means to an end.
But it's a bit weird though, isn't it? It definitely is a little bit weird.
It's not that. Some of them were keeping tally sheets of the women that they got pregnant who had had babies, and
that's wrong.
Obviously, there must be a database. There must be like on a database. You're not just going to turn up. You're not just going to turn up in I don't know, Suffolk and knock on doors. There's
Facebook groups. There are Facebook groups. These people like searching for sperm or something. There are Facebook.
Well, listen, if you're out there watching this, don't look up searching for sperm.com because you probably won't get the right.
The thing was when I was watching it, I was really tempted to search on my Facebook, but I was like, no, I won't, because
you don't want that in your history feed.
I know it's gonna pop up on like my ads. You know when you get the ads if you've been looking at like KD Sports on the internet, and I was like, no, I can't do that because it's gonna pop up on my Facebook.
Oh my god!
But you can understand, can't you? Why somebody would want to do that if they're that desperate for a family. You can understand.
Well, there's a. I think most of the women that were doing it were same-sex couples. Yeah, but no, it's also very seedy business, as well as those men going off and doing their duty for sowing their oats or whatever. There's some
600 odd babies, so you know, it's obviously a sought after business, isn't it?
Be like somebody going to me, you're going to go. It'd be like saying to a woman, you're going to donate your eggs. Do you know what I mean? But actually, there are services for IVF and for hospitals.
There are clinics.
There are clinics as long as you're healthy and other bits and pieces. Then they do pay a certain amount.
You don't just jump in the van.
No, they don't just jump in the van. They send you through the ovulation process, and they pay you for that. It's a set fee of something like £500 or something, I think it is, for you, and you give those eggs, and obviously you sign over your rights to those eggs, and obviously they're used for women that might have had their fallopian tubes but kept their uterus because of cancer treatment and everything else. So, you know, just do you know what? I do way too much research for.
It's good that you do it, because I need to ask you a question actually. When obviously, you know, when you're put on methotrexate and everything like that, methotrexate I think is probably the worst one with getting pregnant with, isn't it? Because that's what they use for ectopic pregnancies. Now, when I was younger, I wasn't told about the risks of what would happen if you got pregnant if you're on any treatment. So I think, like, what would the best advice be to give to somebody if they get pregnant on a treatment?
Best advice is go to the GP. Get in with your GI as soon as possible, because they are the only ones that can give you a definitive answer as to whether or not to go through it. I think the earlier you find out you're pregnant, the better. Just because you know, less risks and other bits and pieces. Earlier you find out, the easier it is. Obviously, the longer the pregnancy goes on, the harder it is. So best advice. Now, for things like I'm not too sure about Humira, because I don't think Humira is a live one. But I know with Entyvio, so that's vedolizumab, and I know with infliximab as well, that if you fall pregnant whilst you're on those, and I think with the Humira as well, I think it's for the first 6 months of the baby's life after you've had the baby. If you've been on those treatments whilst you was pregnant, they can't have live vaccinations until it's out of their system, which is normally it's either 3 to 6 months. I think it is. There was something I read about it in one of the groups. Methotrexate, 9 times out of 10, you shouldn't fall pregnant on that at all. Same with the mercaptopurine, you shouldn't fall pregnant whilst you're on that as well, because they are.
When you say you shouldn't, you mean you can't, or do you mean you really should avoid it?
You shouldn't at all, because there's stuff in the methotrexate and the mercaptopurine that can affect the development process of the embryo. As
so avoid it at all costs.
Yeah. So that's why they tell you.
The methotrexate, if you have an ectopic pregnancy, methotrexate is one of the most common drugs they use to get rid of it.
Is it?
Yeah. But the thing is, I didn't know this when I was younger, and I only just found out like recently about all this. So I think it's important definitely to talk about it, so that people understand what happens.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at what you're saying, but somebody's just sent me a message and said, missed out on a business opportunity there, laugh out loud. I could have been Del Boy. I would have been a millionaire next year at this time, laugh out loud.
I'm sure that I read somewhere that it was like if you used to visit a sperm bank, it like I don't know, £20 to £30 a shot. I mean, I could live on £1,100 a week, no problem.
What do you mean?
For a donation.
Oh, right. Okay.
For the male, they would. My joke just went over everybody's head. It doesn't matter.
Mind you, it depends how many times you can do it and whether or not you end up with blisters, really, isn't it?
But yeah, I think it was like £20 to £30 per sample specimen.
What was that thing I watched in my teens? The man with the good hand and the bad hand. It's my strong hand. That one. That's
a film, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he mixes the mashed potatoes.
It's not another scary movie, I think it is. It's one of those ones.
So that's funny. That is funny. I want to watch that now.
It's getting hot in here.
But no, so for those of like IBD or going through certain things, methotrexate, mercaptopurine, use protection the whole time that you're on that.
I got the implant. I don't know if you can see it. It's like
I've got the scar up there from that, but I had to have it taken out because I'm not good with hormones.
Well, see, she said it takes a couple of weeks for it to, like, I don't know, whatever, like get in your body.
Does that release hormones all the time?
I think so.
Yes, it does.
And how long would that last for?
3 years.
Wow. So I tell you what, that's just incredible what they can design, isn't it? You know, something that would last that long. I mean, you'd think 3 years worth of hormones would be like a cricket bat size.
Yeah,
I'm really glad I got it done.
Sorry, just to confirm, because Elaine's been in contact with me most of the week anyway, because there was a bit of controversy as to whether or not I could have my tooth removed whilst on vedolizumab. Because apparently you're meant to stop the treatments with certain trusts with the consent forms. You're meant to stop the treatment 2 weeks before. Same as like when you have an operation, you need to be off of, like, I know my last dose is in August before the op. Elaine said that the vedolizumab consent checklist she got before starting it said about pregnancy and contraception, and that you really shouldn't fall pregnant whilst you're on the vedolizumab. And just a shout out to her, and I hope she feels better soon. But she said a small bowel MRI today, and she's have felt and been sick all day since she got home at 11. So I'm sorry, lovely. Best advice, if you've got any peppermint tea and ginger biscuits will help with the sickness, and small bowel MRIs are not nice, so I'm sorry. So yeah, pretty much the general advice is don't fall pregnant whilst you're on any Crohn's meds, IBD
and
meds.
the best way is a preventative is get something so you can avoid it.
The problem that you've got with that is so contraception methods, we will cover this.
They're all different.
We will cover that in more detail on another show. However, for those of you with IBD, if you've had surgery and you have absorption issues or you have diarrhea, oral contraceptives are shite. And I do apologise for saying that word. However, the oral contraceptives don't work if you're ill on antibiotics. If you're on any of the immunosuppressants, you have to be careful how.
Also, whether you're gonna absorb it.
Well, this is it. And even
syndrome and
exactly, and even without an ileostomy, I was on it when I was 14, and I absorbed it some days I didn't, and it really messes up your menstrual cycle.
The Depo-Provera jab, you can still fall pregnant on that if you're on antibiotics.
And long term, it causes bone issues.
Yeah, long term, the Depo-Provera is just evil. Not that I've tried most of these contraceptives along the line at all. The next one is the implant. So those of you that have not had children, the only options that you have are the oral contraceptives, the injection, which is the Depo-Provera, or the implant. Those are if you've not had children. In extreme circumstances, so those of you that have got endometriosis, suffer from severe heavy periods, then only then will they give you the Mirena coil. I'm sorry, I've been full of this. The only time, 9 times out of 10, the only time that they will fit you with a Mirena coil or the old-fashioned T coil, which you won't fall pregnant on, but it has no hormones in. The Mirena does have hormones in, so that completely stops your periods, is if you've had children.
I'll also put as well, I spoke to my gynecologist last week, and she also said that people with perineal and pelvic Crohn's, she said it's harder to treat the symptoms when you have a coil because they don't know whether the pain is from the coil or from the Crohn's, and it could be quite complex. Oh. I don't know if you were told that.
I can't have the Mirena coil purely because of I'm not good with the hormones at all. Imagine the Hulk on parade.
Right. Okay, yeah.
that is me with hormones. I don't agree with them at all.
No,
so
I'm the same.
I do end up having a full hysterectomy, then FML. And I apologise to anybody that lives with me. And also when I go through the menopause, I apologise in advance. So, yeah.
Also, the patch as well, isn't there? But, see, I couldn't have the patch because there's 2 types of migraines. The one where you see lots of lights or something. She said that when you get the patch, you can't have it because of the migraines or something. The estrogen, you can get strokes or something.
So I wish I kind of knew a bit more about the male sperm with IBD, with use of all these drugs, but I don't actually know. I'm kind of like guessing. I kind of wish I'd have studied up a bit on this because I feel like I had a lot.
I can tell you with the majority of the drugs, whilst you are on them, they can impact your levels. The methotrexate is one that I'm not too sure about. I know what it does for the women's side and that you shouldn't fall pregnant on it. So it's normally advised for the men that if you are on methotrexate. I
kind of didn't pay attention because I didn't really need to.
No, totally.
So with men, if you're on methotrexate, best advice would be to wrap it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
else?
obviously a vasectomy. Would you actually pass? I don't know what I'm trying to say here.
You still get that thing just without the swimmy things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there is no difference. Just no swimmy things. I had this chat today with a chap at work, and he was like in his 30s, and he had, how can I word this really sensitively, without making myself look a buffoon? He thought because I'd had the vasectomy that you don't actually provide the traveling liquid. Yes. I said, so just steam comes out or it whistles like a kettle. And we had quite a laugh about this. It was quite funny. And then I explained to him the actual size of sperm and that they're microscopic. You can see them in a microscope. You can't see them in real life. And he was quite shocked and amazed. I said, where was you when they did this at school? It was quite a funny conversation. I might actually let him watch this episode just so I can. It was hilarious.
Oh dear God! No, best advice to the men would be to potentially wrap up because I think the other one that used to affect men's fertility as well was sulfasalazine.
What's that?
I used to use that as well for quite a few years, but once again, it was after my my vasectomy, so it didn't really sulfasalazine.
I've never been on that. I don't think.
Oh, it's a nice, big, gigantic
massive
yellow tablet.
Is that ethical?
No.
It's very similar.
Right. Okay. No. They're horrible tablets.
But they do also do Isocol suppositories as well.
I tried those.
I think we're flustering Graham up with our chat, bless him.
What's it saying?
Oh my.
Oh dear me.
But unfortunately for those of you, if it is uncomfortable viewing, these are the sort of questions that need to be asked, that need to be addressed, because not everybody knows. And you know, when you go through life, or you do it like me, and you generally just wing your way through life and just hope for the best at every God-given opportunity, it's worth researching and asking. So if they do stick you on new drugs, just research it, a quick Google. If the consultant hasn't explained it all, because they don't always explain it all, you'll soon get the information. Ask in the groups. There are groups. If you ask in the groups, they can tell you about the medications. You know, I think I only know so much about this, and I think most of us only know so much about it because we see it all the time.
Yeah.
It's one of the things
that
it sticks, it stays with you. And I think with being a woman, I think because there's so many drugs that can have an adverse effect with regards to pregnancy and getting pregnant and having a viable fetus and a viable baby, I think they tend to tell the women more than what they tell the men.
I think what you see in the groups as well a lot is if someone offers up some information which is incorrect, then you know that they soon get shut down with people who know their stuff. So you are getting from the horse's mouth. You know, I wouldn't dare offer some information that was incorrect, because I expect to be hounded, you know, until finally it comes out it's just ridiculous. You know, you got to know your stuff.
Dangerous as well, very dangerous.
Because like you know, we always sound here, we're not medical professionals, not one of us. You know,
no.
we just.
It was
I think we're trying to help people. I think somebody
said the other day, I have antibiotics for recurrent infections. Can I take them? But I've just had surgery. I'm like, no, go to out of hours. Go to GP. Because, as you said, none of us are medical professionals, and as helpful as the groups are, and the groups are brilliant,
you've still got to get proper advice here.
Definitely, you can't rely on just what somebody tells you. You have to, you know, see somebody who has studied it and, you know, is qualified, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, our opening gambit for the show has always been, we are in no way medical professionals. We just
sometimes we could be.
No, see, the thing is though, that there could be one thing, there could be one mispronunciation or one sure, go for it, have you tried it? And you could end up seriously hurting that person.
Definitely.
You know, it's like when people ask about questions about bile salt malabsorption, I go, well, have you tried this, or have you given that? Have you asked your consultant about this? Have you asked them about that? If this one's going to hurt,
by all means, give it information that has helped you. I've given loads of information of stuff that's really helped me. For instance, I had the methotrexate, I had the Humira for my colitis, and it never touched me at all. It never worked.
The same as me,
and then they tried me on. They said we'll try you on vedolizumab, but it's going to take 22 weeks or 18 weeks to go into your system, and then it's going to, you know, there's a 20% chance that it's going to work. And so I didn't have it. I had my op, but then once my op was done, I was drug free until my arthritis kicked in, and then they stepped up the methotrexate and the Humira again, and you know what, it's been fantastic. I've had no pain, you know, the odd twinge here and there, but compared to what it was like before. So they found the perfect combination for me of drugs that work, which didn't work. I mean, they're both autoimmune diseases, aren't they?
Yeah, I think when people ask about IBD drugs as a general whole, what's good, what's worth it, I think sometimes you've just got to go with whatever dice your consultant rolls.
Yeah.
Because like Steve said, you know, like Steve has said, he tried that stuff for his colitis, didn't touch the sides, yet for his arthritis, boom, bang, done, it's sorted, you know.
It's like prednisolone. You know, when I very first tried it, I felt on top of the world. I felt like a spring lamb running around. I was dreaming of cornflakes, I was waking up in the morning so hungry.
In my case, and then, double cheeseburgers and a strawberry shake.
I tell you what, girls, within about 3 months, I was on quite a high dose. You know, do you remember Drop Dead Fred?
Yeah. No, I don't.
When he gets his head slammed in the fridge, and he's got a completely round head.
Yeah.
And that was my head for months and months, and you know, I felt brilliant, but obviously the side effects are horrific. And every time I had a flare, they'd up the dose. And then when I was stepping down to the last sort of 2 tablets,
came back again.
It was flare. Yeah, and in the end, I just decided that enough's enough. I can't keep using this drug. You know, it kind of like ruined my eyesight. I can't even read the instructions on the tablets anymore, which is madness, because you're reading the instructions and it's saying may cause squinty eyes. You know, and I wear reading glasses now to read the small print. I can't even see Facebook most of the times. You know, at least with
my eyesight has got so bad over the years. The worse my Crohn's has got, the worse my eyes have got.
But you know what? When I got I don't.
My eyes go really bloodshot.
According to the ENT that I went and saw the other Monday, I've got uveitis, but I've only got it in one eye. He's given me demoxicillin or something or other to help with inflammation. I've got to use that for 4 weeks. If it comes back again, I've got to go back for more steroid drops, but he's hoping that it'll keep it at bay a bit. But it's really weird because it's only the one eye.
Well, sometimes it can only be.
When I went to Specsavers to get my eyes tested, probably a year and a half ago, the obstetrician, no, what are they called?
The ophthalmologist.
Oh
no, the optometrist.
Yeah, ophthalmologist.
Yeah, that's the one. That's right. She actually was looking in my eye and she said, "Do you suffer with IBD?" And I give her no information at all.
Why?
She'd seen the kind of damage I had from people with IBD who'd actually, you know, the eyes had been changed through the use of steroids, you know, which I was amazed. You know, I thought, wow, you can tell that from looking at the back of my eyes. It was just incredible.
Yeah, I've got a stigma in this eye. All the issues I have is this eye. This one's not so bad, but this one's horrendous. I struggle like differentiating between different coloured backgrounds. So, you know, like when you're driving down the motorway and you've got like white writing on the back on blue sign, or black. I'm fine with black writing on a whiteboard, but if you put white writing on a blackboard, no chance. Yeah, I'm like
that with my sat nav. I'm driving down the motorway now. My eyes is perfect, you know, my long distance. And I got my glasses on my head there because my sat nav is here, and I'm having to go just so I can see. Have I got to turn left? You know, how many yards was that? How many yards have I got to turn right?
Oh,
I've got glasses. I just don't like to wear them that much because.
But when I put them down, I can't see the background.
To be honest, I've lost that much weight now. If I do that,
they fall off. Oh, they go on your nose.
My mum keeps going, my glasses are too big for my face, and I'm like, I ain't paying for another set of frames and tight. I'll wait.
They're expensive, I have to say.
I'll wait for the year recall and go back in and get another set.
Well, you know what? That hour went quite fast.
It did.
It did. I think we did an amenable job, just the three of us.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, no, it was good.
Hats off to you guys. Thank you ever so much. So,
thank you for having me.
For those of you watching, at the moment, I know we are covering fertility for most of July, but next week I have no idea what we are covering. I may not even be on next Thursday because I'm going to have a face out here looking like a chipmunk with like food scribbled inside my mouth.
We could do like a chipmunk episode, couldn't we?
Yeah, well, you could wear a mask. You could wear a pretty mask.
Yeah, like a masquerade episode.
I'll see if I can get Maisie to kick me in the other side to match it.
Lovely.
But I'd like to say, what?
Go on. No.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you everybody so much for watching. Thank you for the live chat. I'm hoping that watching it wasn't too daunting or offended anybody, but these things need to be spoken about. So thank you ever so much. Love to you all. Hope you all have a good week. Stay safe. Stay hydrated. Hoping the Stomas behave, and we'll see you all again next week.
Bye-bye. See you later. Take care. Bye-bye.